Okay, item number 10, conduct of business. Item A, adopt a resolution approving the San Bruno Community Foundation's 501c3 application and 3-year budget. And I
Yes,
believe,
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
members of the City Council.
and let me just say one thing, Mark, just so everyone knows. Everyone knows. I just want to reiterate, this is not a full-blown comprehensive report on what everybody's been doing up to date. It's pretty much a highlight of where they are at this point in time, but we will be getting a full report from the entire foundation board probably within the next 2 months. So I just want to reiterate, tonight is not the night to get into all the minutia, but we want to get the 501c3 approved so that we can get the big report together sooner than later. So Mark,
Thank you for that comment. We are here tonight on this item to review and at your discretion approve the San Bruno Community Foundation's 3-year budget. And that's a budget that accompanies the 501c3 application that the foundation is intending to file with both the Internal Revenue Service and then the state of California to obtain tax-exempt status. As you've indicated, this is a big step for the foundation as it moves forward toward full operations, which it's been working diligently on in the last many months. The staff report in front of you details all of the steps that you, the City Council, took since last March in forming that organization. And as you've indicated, the San Bruno Community Foundation president and other board members will be coming to you at a subsequent meeting to tell you all about their activities. But tonight's action is limited to review and approval of the 3-year budget and the 501c3 application. I do see that Treasurer Ben Cohn is here from the foundation to introduce himself and answer any questions if you have them. There are 2 other members of the foundation board here, Frank Headley and Pat Bohm. We're aware that a couple of other members wanted to come but couldn't, so there's a pretty good representation who wanted to be here and who aren't here tonight. Let's just take a minute and tell you a bit about the staff report. It does explain the numbers and assumptions that are behind the budget. And it's important to keep in mind that this budget is required to be a good faith estimate. That's what the IRS says. It's not an operating budget. That's something that the board is going to do separately and independently at the appropriate time. So the budget can be modified at a later date. This budget is really just for the purposes of filing the 501c3. It's required to be filed along with it because the IRS wants to know what's the organization's plan. So in summary, the budget anticipates about a 7% return on funds and about a 5% payout in the next 2 fiscal years. What is that based on? Well, it's based on the development of grant-making and investment policies, and those policies are yet to occur. So that's something that we and the consultants will be helping the foundation do over the next coming months. The budget also indicates an intent to hire an executive director and possibly an administrative assistant to perform the majority or all of the work of the foundation. The other line items in the budget are detailed in the staff report. I won't go through them unless you have any questions. They were all based on a couple of things. First, input from the consultant at the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, but also the board of directors appointed a subcommittee consisting of board members Headley, Bohm, and John McLaughlin, who isn't here tonight. And they worked closely with staff and the consultant to develop the information that's in the budget, and we'd like to thank them for their assistance with that. So attached to your staff report tonight is the staff report we prepared for the foundation when this item went before them. They reviewed the budget, they had a couple of tweaks to it, we corrected some typos, and they eventually, as you can see, adopted a resolution approving the budget and the entire 501c3 application. We did spare you from that 70-page application. It is online. You can find it, if you wish, on the city's website under the San Bruno Community Foundation. And it's listed as one of the agenda items for the Community Foundation's staff report for their May 15, 2014 meeting. So that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure that Treasurer Ben Cohn would be happy to introduce himself as well.
Good. Any questions for Mark? Ben, you're on.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As was mentioned, my name is Ben Cohn. I'm the treasurer of the San Bruno Community Foundation, joined by a couple of my fellow board members here and those that couldn't make it this evening send their regards. I'd just like to sort of reiterate how important this milestone is for the foundation and our progress and moving forward. It was a real collective effort of the board, city staff, our council and consultants, and I think that we've worked exceptionally well together to this point, and are very happy to have arrived at this moment to put this application and budget before you for your approval. I'd also like to just mention that, you know, a budget is really more than a financial document. It really speaks to the values of an organization, whether the federal budget to the family budget, whatever it may be. And I think that in looking through our budget and our application, you'll really find our commitment to the community, our commitment to prudence and due diligence in the work that we're doing. And I think that I can speak for all the board members and say that we're all very honored and privileged to be able to serve in this capacity, and we look forward to what lies ahead. Thank you.
Any questions for Ben at this time? Action by the council?
If I could ask a question, we're talking $70 million. That's, you know, startup for this for the foundation. Is it because it's truly that much money that this whole setup and the process is this involved? I've been affiliated with service organizations that have gotten 501c3 status, and also smaller foundations, you know, under $500,000, you know, but, basic paperwork and things, and, you know, nothing of this scale. So could you just, if you
Sure.
can...
Right, there's really, I think, a couple of key reasons why this process has been so complicated. The first one, as you indicated, is yes, it's a tremendous amount of money. And so I think everybody wants to make sure that they're doing it right the first time, because with that much money, you don't really get a second chance. The second reason why it's so complex is because unlike other foundations with seed money, this foundation was started with money that was the result of a legal settlement between the city and PG&E, and that's a very unusual circumstance, and that has resulted in both the attorneys and our consultants wanting to make sure they're cautious about each step of the way, making sure that all of the legalities are taken care of. The third reason why it's so different is because unlike other foundations, this foundation lives in a world that is neither entirely nonprofit nor entirely public entity. It's both. Most foundations are simply nonprofits. They're governed by the Corporations Code. This foundation is governed by both the Corporations Code and the Government Code, the same code that you all are governed by. So whenever we have documents to look at or policies to prepare, we have to make sure that they comply with both sets of rules. And it's been remarkably challenging to do that. Lastly, this is one of those things that I don't think anybody's ever done before. And so in a way, both our outside counsel, myself, the staff, and our consultants are inventing something that has never previously existed. And I think those are the reasons why it's been such a difficult but also very rewarding process.
Okay. And lastly, for the benefit of the public that finds out that we're taking some action here, any estimate as to when the foundation will be in operation?
So that's a good question. That we don't have an exact estimate for you right now. What we want to do is make sure that the foundation has in place all of the policies or the critical policies that are necessary for its operation. Because if they start operations before those policies are implemented, then somebody's likely to say, well, how come you didn't do this, or how come you didn't do that? So we think it's critical for those policies to be in place before important community decisions are made. In addition to that, there's also going to be, I think, as you expected, a public process for all of that to occur. We do know that the IRS could take up to 18 months to approve the application, but that's not going to stop the foundation from diligently continuing to meet every month as it has in the last over 5 or 6 months to get all of those policies squared away. We're hopeful it will be in the next fiscal year.
Okay.
Good.
Through
Anything
the
else?
chair.
Rico?
I was just going to say, and I think the city attorney said it, is that it is something, again, uncharted. And so it's a matter of getting it right. They're under the Brown Act as far as provisions and posting meetings, and it may take longer to get things done, but it's certainly done with transparency. It's also done, I think, with a lot of thought through the process, just as we tried to come up with bylaws that had to last for 3 years. My understanding on this particular issue with the budget, it's something that we need to get down and have something of a starting point, but it doesn't necessarily put anyone within the parameters of the budget, but the process must begin somewhere. So I would say that the board is in operation and has been since this appointment by this council. So I think they're up and running, and I think they're taking a task that will have rewards in the end, but obviously we'll have a slow process to get to those. And I commend them for that, and I know it's not easy, but they're moving the ball forward, and I think I'd rather err on a little bit more time and getting it right.
Anyone else? Irene?
Thank you. I just want to thank each member of the board and remind the public that these are dedicated volunteers. They put hours and hours into this and a lot of thought and attention. And when you corral them at the grocery store, they are doing this out of the goodness of their heart and for the love of the community. So please keep that in mind and don't harangue them. Thank you.
Anyone else? Action by the council?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. I would also like to add my sincere appreciation to the entire board. I'm sure you're all delighted that you volunteered for this. But it is rewarding, and it's going to be very rewarding. You started with a blank sheet. Nobody's ever really done this type of thing before. It's a real hybrid, and walking through this little minefield of federal regulations and the Brown Act and everything else that a lot of other nonprofits don't have to negotiate. So it's been quite a ride. It's not over yet, but you're doing a great job, and we really appreciate your efforts. Thank you very much.